The orbital museum Telemoni's drift moved through the silence of deep space like a cathedral built of glass and shadow. Its curved hull shimmered under the distant blue of a dwarf star, and inside its walls, the legacy of 100 dead civilizations hung under protective glass domes. Niven Rowe had spent most of his adult life here, translating the old symbols and archiving the last memories of extinct species. A gentleman by every measure, he didn't carry a weapon or speak with any authority. He spoke only through the quietness of ink and the hum of ancient music playing through his data pad while he worked. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who liked to catalog lost things. Which made what happened that day all the more impossible. It started when a maintenance hatch on Deck 7 refused to close. Niven didn't usually handle hardware, but he'd gotten used to crawling through ducts and neglected galleries to retrieve misfiled pieces. It wasn't unusual for cleaning drones to go offline or for gravity stabilizers to hiccup in the outer corridors. He climbed the narrow access ladder that led to the observation skylight, a dome that had once been part of the ship's luxury sector before the funding cuts turned it into disuse. No guests ever came up here anymore. Not since the war ended. As the hatch groaned open, Niven's first impression was of cold. Not the chill of a broken climate system, but a deeper cold, like the silence of space pressing inward. Then he saw her. A figure crouched beside the old optics console, her form half concealed in shadow, wrapped in something that shimmered like smoke in low light. She didn't move at first, not even when he stepped through the hatch and stared, wide-eyed. She wasn't human. She had pale, translucent skin with faint glowing patterns across her arms like bioluminescent ink, and her hair fell in wet black waves, tangled and streaked with some kind of dust that shimmered purple under the skylight. One eye was swollen shut, her lips split. She was injured, and watching him with startling intensity. His mouth opened before his mind caught up. This sector is sealed. You can't. Don't call them, she said quickly. Her voice was cracked, soft. But even in those few syllables, there was something melodic, like someone learning his language by heart, one sound at a time. Please. Niven stared. She was clearly some kind of refugee, maybe from the border colonies. But her features were too delicate, her presence too strange. And that suit, he realized it wasn't a normal pressure suit. It was alive. Breathing with her. He took a careful step forward. You need medical care. There's a med bay. They'll trace me, she interrupted, flinching. They'll use your systems. If you log me, they'll find me. And they'll kill you too. Who will? She looked at him. Really looked. As if weighing some invisible scale. My kind. He didn't know why he didn't report her. Maybe it was the way she spoke, not with fear, but exhaustion. Like she had been running for so long that fear was simply muscle memory now. Maybe it was the pain in her movements, or the blood he saw seeping through the edge of her side. Or maybe it was that she looked directly at him and didn't flinch when he approached. Whatever it was, Niven found himself kneeling beside her, opening the small toolkit he carried on his belt, and cutting off a strip of cloth to press against her wound. I don't know what you are, he said quietly. But I'm not going to let anyone kill you. The silence that followed was heavy. Then, slowly, she lifted her hand, long fingers, webbed slightly between the knuckles, and placed it gently over his. You're kind, she said. Even after what they did. He frowned. Who? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into the folds of her suit and pulled out a small cylindrical object, no larger than a stylus. It hummed softly in her hand, and when she passed it to him, he saw the faint image of a molecule projected in the air, complex, glowing in threads of red and gold. That's DNA, he said. It's human. It's yours, she whispered. They spent the night hidden in the dome. Niven patched her wound with what little he had, and she did not complain when he fumbled with the sealant. She said her name was Salon, and she came from a people beyond the mapped sectors, beyond the trade alliances and the xenocultural zones where most of the sentient galaxy operated. Your people don't have a name in your tongue? He asked, kneeling beside her. She hesitated. No. Names imply unity. We fractured long ago. She wouldn't say more, but she told him this: she had not come to hurt him. She had come to destroy something hidden inside him. Something he never knew was there. You were targeted years ago, she said. They put it in you during your first xenolinguistic conference on Haven 3. The fake food poisoning, the week you lost to fevers, they weren't natural. He stared at her. I never told anyone about that. I know, she replied. That's how I knew you were one of them. One of what? Carriers. They used you as a vault. A walking encryption key. And what am I supposed to unlock? Salon looked up through the skylight. A long breath passed her lips. Her bioluminescent markings dimmed. A signal. A song. One that can enslave entire populations if played on the right frequency. It was buried in your DNA so no one would suspect. But they didn't count on one of us defecting. They didn't count on me seeing you. He searched her face. You could have just removed it. Taken it by force. Why didn't you? I was supposed to, she said. But I watched you. I studied you before I approached. And I saw something they didn't. What? Her voice lowered. She reached up, brushing a strand of black hair from her cheek. You're beautiful when you look at the stars. It was foolish. Illogical. Reckless. But Niven Rowe, the man who catalogued ancient tragedies and refused to take sides, found himself reaching for her hand. You're not what I expected, he said. Neither are you. Is this something you were designed to do? Make me feel this way? No, she whispered. This is the one thing that wasn't designed. The closeness between them wasn't planned. It wasn't seduction or manipulation. It was two people, alien and human, who shared a moment of terrifying honesty in a world made of lies. When she leaned her head against his shoulder, Niven felt the stars tilt. And he let them. Later that night, she told him the rest. Her people were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They didn't use fleets or armies. They used data. Song. Neurochemical manipulation embedded in language and rhythm. It was art, weaponized. A melody encoded in flesh. Niven had been chosen because his brain was unusually receptive to pattern synthesis. He was never supposed to notice. Never supposed to wake up. But Salon had changed that. And in doing so, she had made herself a traitor. You'll be hunted, he said quietly. I already am. You said they'll kill me if they find me. She nodded. Then let's not be found. In the days that followed, Niven helped her move through the underdecks, avoiding scanners. They slept in cargo bays and old exhibit tunnels. She recovered, slowly, and he found himself drawn to her grace, her silence, her strange alien warmth that felt like gravity itself. He no longer questioned the truth. It wasn't just her story that convinced him. It was the change in his own body. He could feel the rhythm inside him now, pulsing in his blood like a heartbeat in reverse. The music. The code. And he knew, she had saved him. Even if it cost them both their lives. But something else was happening, too. She was becoming more human. And he was becoming something in between. Neither fully of Earth nor entirely of her stars. Something new. Something dangerous. Something beautiful. And when they kissed for the first time in the quiet behind the museum's old gravity lens, with the stars whirling around them like dancers, it was not because they were told to. It was because they chose to. Together. She had never believed in softness. Salon was born into the edge winds, those storm-swept colonies between the core systems of her people. No names, only identifiers. No mothers, only incubation. No lovers, only functions. She had learned silence before speech. Learned pain before pleasure. And yet now, in the quiet hum of a derelict museum ship, she found herself craving the softest thing in the universe, the sound of Niven Rowe breathing in his sleep beside her. He lay with his arm draped carelessly across a satchel of scrolls they had used as a makeshift pillow, his glasses still askew on the bridge of his nose. She had tried to memorize the shape of his jaw, the curve of his brow, the warmth that radiated from him even in deep space chill. He did not know that she had almost killed him the first time she saw him. She had tracked him for 17 Earth days before making contact. Observed him through the thermal ductwork of the upper deck while he catalogued ancient river symbols from the Naimari culture. She had studied the way he handled delicate tablets like sacred children. She had even watched him laugh, alone, when a translation subroutine produced the phrase, aggressively poetic cow. He was not like the others. And that was a problem. Because Salon was not here to fall in love. She was here to destroy the key buried inside his DNA, the fragment of code her kind had hidden in him years ago. A piece of a sonic lattice meant to harmonize with the minds of a billion sentients and rewrite them with a single, irresistible chorus. It was supposed to activate next season, during the Peace Festival broadcast on Haven 3. Hidden inside a museum's commemorative musical performance. Hidden inside Niven Rowe. He didn't even know that the song he'd been working on restoring, the one etched into the lost instruments of the Melari vault, was the trigger. And if Salon hadn't broken rank and defected, he would have sung the galaxy into obedience. Instead, she had chosen betrayal. But now, sitting near him in the dark curve of a gravity-dead dome, she began to wonder, had she betrayed the right people? Or was she about to betray herself? On the third day of hiding, Salon couldn't stand the silence anymore. "You're different from what they told us," she said quietly, while Niven traced glyphs into a portable tablet by the dim bio-light of her body. He looked up. "Who's they?" "My origin caste. The Harmonic Archivists. They've been studying your species since first contact. They think humans are simple. Primitive. Addicted to war and noise and sensation." Niven smiled faintly. "I can't argue with the noise part. They never expected you to have so much interiority," she said, the word foreign on her tongue. "You're not loud in your mind. You're layered." He met her gaze. "I don't know what that means, but it sounded like a compliment." She felt her bioluminescence flicker along her forearms, an involuntary blush. It was. There was a long pause. "I've never spoken this much to anyone before," she admitted. "You speak beautifully. Because I learned your language for 2 years before ever setting foot in your presence," she said. "Every word you speak, I've heard it 1,000 times in neural recordings. But I never understood how different it would sound from your mouth." Niven's voice was softer now. "And you? Did you ever learn your own name?" She hesitated. "No," she said finally. "Names are earned where I come from. Not given." He tilted his head. "Then let me give you one." She blinked. "Why?" "Because you deserve to be called something by someone who sees you. Not by what you were designed for." She swallowed, something hot rising in her chest. "What would you call me?" He smiled. "Salon." She stared at him. "That's already what I told you." "I know. But this time, it's not an identifier. It's yours. Because you said it." And in that moment, something inside her broke. Something she didn't know had been built to contain love. Later that night, when he slept again, Salon moved to the upper hatch of the skylight dome and opened the comm receiver. It was an illegal frequency, low-band, point-to-point quantum thread. Something no human system could detect. And she used it to send a message. "Subject Alpha has not been terminated. Protocol deviation continues." Personal conflict increasing. I require contact. The reply came less than a minute later. Stand down. Extraction incoming. Final override authorized. Eliminate him. Eliminate yourself if necessary. She stared at the message. Then deleted it. She didn't tell Niven about the message. But the next day, she kissed him. Not because it was strategic. Not because her neurochemistry had been conditioned to simulate romantic trust in field operations. But because he looked at her like she was real. Like she was more than a beautiful ghost from beyond the stars. He touched her like she wasn't dangerous. Like her pain wasn't a warning sign, but an invitation to stay. When their lips met, it wasn't a fusion of alien and human. It was two people alone in a world that wanted to weaponize their hearts. And in that kiss, she felt something irreversible. Fear. Not of death. Not of betrayal. But of losing this. Of having tasted tenderness and never being allowed to keep it. That night, she dreamt of the song. Not the melodic kind. But the one encoded in the layers of his DNA. A multispectrum activation thread hidden in the vibrational echoes of ancestral memory. She could feel it now. Resonating just beneath his heartbeat. If she didn't extract it soon, it would begin to activate on its own. And if that happened, if the harmonic message inside his cells aligned with the upcoming broadcast, then even she wouldn't be immune. The whole galaxy would bow. Not with chains. But with music. It was art as control. And Niven Rowe would be its unwitting prophet. Unless she killed him first. Or risked everything to try something no one had dared. To rewrite the song itself. They moved again the next day, down into the forgotten exhibit cores, places where the ship's scanning arrays had decayed with time, leaving dead zones of surveillance. Salon had always been good at hiding. But now, she was hiding not just from her kind, but from the truth she had known her whole life. That love was a vulnerability. That feelings made agents disloyal. That softness led to death. But every time Niven looked at her like she was the first sunrise after a long winter, she felt less like a soldier and more like someone waking up from a lifetime of dreams. She watched the way he held the artifact case between both hands, cradling it like it held the heart of a civilization. She watched the way he smiled at her when she said things that weren't supposed to be funny. She watched him with the awe of someone seeing a star go supernova and realizing they'd never known what light could do to the dark. And that's when she made her decision. She wouldn't kill him. She wouldn't run. She would rewrite the song. Even if it meant betraying her orders. Even if it meant dying. Even if it meant losing the last pieces of herself that still felt like her people. She was not an instrument. She was not a vector. She was Salon. Named by a human. And she would be the architect of her own ending. On the fourth day, as they passed through the old cultural anthropology wing, Niven found her staring at a glass case. Inside was a musical instrument, an alien flute carved from the bones of a species that had gone extinct 3 centuries ago. The plaque beneath it read, "Sound is memory that refuses to die." When he looked at her, she was weeping. Silently. But the glow of her body pulsed like a broken heartbeat. He didn't ask what was wrong. He just put his arms around her. And for once, she let herself be held. Not because she was weak. But because she no longer believed strength meant standing alone. At the end of that night, she activated her final contingency plan. A transmitter built into her skin, deep in her spine. She opened the neural encryption and rewrote the access keys, one by one, embedding them in a pattern only Niven's voice could unlock. It would be dangerous. It would mark her as permanently compromised. But it would also mean that the only way to trigger the ancient song of conquest would now require the voice of a man who refused to be a weapon. When the rewrite finished, she collapsed. Not from exhaustion. But from fear. Because she had just made Niven Rowe the most important person in the galaxy. And the most hunted. She had taken away the war. And replaced it with love. But love, in the hands of power, was still a target. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she whispered to his sleeping form. I hope you never forgive me for what I've done. I hope you never find out what I almost became. She pressed her forehead against his chest. And I hope, if we survive this, I can be someone worthy of the name you gave me. Outside, the stars moved slowly. But inside her, everything was burning. It wasn't a vow. Not some meditative ritual or trauma response. It was simply that there was no one left to talk to. Not after the trial. Not after the exile. He floated in his long-range scout vessel, Oraline, tucked between the folds of unpatrolled space, a half-dead corner of the sap his drift where sensor echoes took days to fade. It was the kind of place ships went to vanish and voices went to forget themselves. He'd come here to be erased. Instead, something found him. A signal. Ragged. Layered. Partially encrypted. Partially sung. And underneath all its static, a voice he hadn't heard in years. Her voice. Salon. He recognized her by cadence first. Before the harmonics. Before the metadata drift. Her voice had always moved like smoke, lingering in the throat of a sentence, curling around pauses. A melody that spoke through the gaps. He played it again. And again. Not because he didn't believe it. But because he did. He hadn't heard her since the Aurealis catastrophe, when half their class had vanished in the deep systems and Salon had been declared martyr to the code. But he had always known she was alive. Now, she was sending a message that could destabilize two species. And she had chosen to encode it using the private harmonics of their old cohort cipher, a linguistic pattern known only to 3 people in the entire galaxy. Valen was one of them. He decoded it line by line, punched over the dim flicker of his cracked projection screen. Each phrase dropped into his ears like a weight. Do not trust protocol channels. I have rewritten the key. The vault is no longer passive. Niven Row is the axis. I can't kill him. That last one wasn't part of the mission. That last one was raw. And familiar. Valen had loved Salon once. The kind of love that burns quietly for years, unnoticed, until the room catches fire and you realize everything you own is ash. He had admired her mind, her discipline. The way she made language feel like a living thing. She'd never known. Or perhaps she had, and never let it show. But he had always known she wasn't built for loving back. Or so he thought. Now, he wasn't so sure. He activated Auraline's trajectory alignment engines and plotted a vector toward the Telemoni's drift. It was an old route, once used by artifact traders and diplomatic envoys. Now, it was mostly forgotten. Much like him. He reached for the controls, but hesitated. To go back meant abandoning his safety. Meant returning to the politics that had disgraced him. Meant helping the woman who had chosen exile without him. But she was in danger. And that was reason enough. The stars warped around him as the ship folded into subspace. And Valen Sero began speaking again. To himself. To her. To the ghost of what he used to be. He docked with the outer debris ring first, an old satellite corridor that had been used to store decommissioned exhibits. The outer shell of the Telemonies was inert, mostly rusted, with just enough power to run basic shielding. From there, he found the signal pocket Salon had used. But there was something strange in the pattern. Another voice. Not alien. Not Vorasi. Human. Male. Speaking in tandem with her. Not in words, but in resonance. Their emotional fields, woven. Their neurolinguistic bond, mutual. Valen's hands tightened around the receiver. He knew what that meant. Salon had chosen someone. And it wasn't him. He found them in the lower archive shaft. Niven Rowe was bent over a data module, eyes scanning the layers of historical signal beneath a shattered Melari glyph array. Salon stood close behind him, her bioluminescence pulsing in slow, steady warmth. The intimacy between them was unmistakable. She didn't see Valen enter. But she froze the moment she felt him. Her eyes snapped to the doorway. A breath caught in her throat. "Niven," she whispered. "We have company." Valen stepped forward. Not armed. Not threatening. But changed. His hair had gone longer. His eyes sunken. His face drawn not with age but with abandonment. "I decoded your signal," he said simply. Niven stood, immediately protective. Placed himself between them. Valen tilted his head. "You must be the vault." Niven frowned. "And you are someone who knows how dangerous your existence is." Salon stepped forward now, putting a hand gently on Niven's shoulder. "Valen," she said softly. "Why him?" Valen asked. There was no bitterness in his voice. Only something heavier. Resignation. "I didn't choose this," Salon said. "But I'm choosing it now." Valen gave a slow nod. "I didn't come to interfere. I came to help." "Why?" Niven asked, still wary. "Because what you carry is no longer just a key. It's becoming a signal of its own. She changed it, she nested new frequencies in your genome. If it keeps adapting, it could overwrite you completely." Salon flinched. Niven blinked. "Then what do I do?" Valen took a breath. "We have to complete the rewrite. Before the harmony stabilizes." "How long do we have?" she asked. "Less than 5 days," Valen said. "Before what?" Niven whispered. Valen met his eyes. "Before your body begins broadcasting." The three of them moved through the half-lit corridors of the archive vessel like ghosts on borrowed time. They reached the secure memory node on level Epsilon, a forbidden wing that had once stored a sentient AI known only as Curator Zero, now offline. Valen set up a harmonic cage around Niven's core biofield using broken frequency amplifiers, repurposed from ancient Melari instruments. As he calibrated the field, he noticed the way Salon kept touching Niven's hand. The small glances. The shared breath. He didn't ask. He didn't have to. But he felt it like a song with a missing chord. At night, while Niven slept, sweating, trembling with the strain of the rewrite, Valen and Salon sat together beneath the vent shaft, wrapped in silence. "You changed it," Valen said. "Yes." "For him." "No," she whispered. "For us all." He stared at her. But she didn't look away. "You always were more brave than I was," he said. "You were never afraid. Just always late." He smiled. She didn't. "There's more," she said. "I think, the bond between us. Between Niven and me. It's altering him in ways I didn't expect. Emotional energy feeds the rewrite." Valen nodded. "Love is the most stable frequency in your spectrum." She turned to him, her face unreadable. "Do you hate me?" He blinked. Then shook his head. "No." "Do you still love me?" He paused. "Yes." A long silence stretched between them. And then she said the thing he never expected. "I wish I could love you back." He looked away. "You do," he said quietly. "Just not in the way I need." She didn't deny it. And that, somehow, hurt less than pretending. The next day, the rewrite completed its third phase. Niven's pulse began harmonizing with the pulse of the ship itself. Lights flickered when he walked past. Archived sound samples played themselves in his presence. He was becoming something else. Not just a man. Not just a message. But a melody. And Valancero realized, with a strange peace, that he was not the center of this story anymore. But he would help it end. With dignity. With poetry. With love. Even if it was not his to receive. In the final hours of the rewrite, Niven collapsed. Heart rate spiking. Light bending around him. Voice echoing across 4 dimensions. The signal was stabilizing. The new melody, his melody, was almost ready. Valen leaned down, placed his hands on Niven's temples, and whispered in the old tongue of the edge winds. You carry us now. Niven opened his eyes, glowing faintly. I can feel them, he said. Who? Everyone. Salon reached for him. He took her hand. And smiled. Then the alarms began. The Telemoni's drift was under assault. Her people had arrived. They were coming for their song. And for the ones who had rewritten it.